I was 6 years old when I first realized my parents were different from other parents, not in the way they looked or dressed, but in the way they acted, especially towards me. I remember the day clearly. It was the first day of school. My twin sister, Emma, and I were excited. We held hands as we walked to the classroom, our identical pigtails bouncing with each step. But the moment we entered the room, something shifted. The teacher greeted us, her smile wide and warm, but her eyes lingered on Emma. She praised her for her neat appearance, her polite demeanor, and then, almost as an afterthought, she looked at me and said, "And this must be your sister." It was a small comment, one that might seem insignificant, but it set the tone for the years to come. Emma was always the smart one, the one who excelled at everything she did. I, on the other hand, struggled with schoolwork, with making friends, with just about everything. My parents were quick to notice the difference. They would praise Emma endlessly, telling her how proud they were of her, how she was destined for greatness. And then they would turn to me, their smiles fading, and tell me that I needed to try harder, to be more like Emma. At first, I tried. I spent hours hunched over my homework, trying to understand the numbers and letters that danced on the page. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never keep up with Emma. She would finish her assignments in minutes, while I would struggle for hours, only to end up with a page full of mistakes. My parents would sigh in disappointment, their frustration growing with each passing day. I could see it in their eyes, the way they looked at me like I was a burden, a disappointment. The day they left me, I was 8 years old. It was a Sunday, and we had just come back from church. Emma and I were playing in the backyard when I heard my parents talking in the kitchen. Their voices were low, but I could hear the tension in them. I crept closer, hiding behind the door as I listened. "We can't keep doing this," my father said. "She's holding Emma back. Every time she fails, it reflects on us." "She's not like Emma," my mother replied. "She'll never be like Emma. We have to think about what's best for her, for both of them." "What are you saying?" my father asked, his voice cold. "We send her away," my mother said, her voice trembling. "Somewhere she can get the help she needs. Somewhere far from here." My heart dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They wanted to send me away, to get rid of me because I wasn't as smart as Emma. I wanted to run, to scream, to beg them not to do it, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, my body numb with fear. The next day, they took me to a children's home. They told me it was just for a little while, that they needed time to figure things out. But I knew the truth. They didn't want me anymore. They wanted Emma, their perfect, smart daughter, and I was just a burden they needed to get rid of. The home was cold and sterile, a far cry from the warmth of my own home. The other children were distant, lost in their own pain. I spent most of my days alone, curled up in a corner, wondering what I had done wrong. Why wasn't I good enough? Why couldn't I be like Emma? Years passed, and I grew older, but the pain never faded. My parents never came to visit, not once. I watched as the other children were picked up by their families, but no one ever came for me. I was alone, abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. When I turned 18, I left the home and tried to start a new life. I moved to a small town where no one knew me, found a job at a local diner, and tried to forget the past. But the memories haunted me, the pain of my parents' rejection a constant ache in my chest. One day, out of the blue, I received a letter. It was from my parents. They wanted to see me, to talk. My hands shook as I read the letter, the words blurring as tears filled my eyes. Why now? After all these years, why did they suddenly want to see me? I debated whether to go, but in the end, curiosity won out. I needed to know why they had abandoned me, why they had chosen Emma over me. I needed closure. When I arrived at their house, the same house I had grown up in, it felt surreal. Nothing had changed, yet everything was different. I hesitated at the door, my heart pounding in my chest, but then I knocked. My mother answered the door, her face pale and drawn. She looked older, more fragile than I remembered. "Come in," she said, her voice trembling. I stepped inside. the familiar smell of the house hitting me like a wave. My father was sitting in the living room, his face grim. Emma was the too, sitting next to him, her expression unreadable. "We wanted to talk to you," my father said, his voice cold and distant. "We need your help." I stared at him, disbelief coursing through me. After all these years, they wanted my help. The irony was almost laughable. Emma spoke up, her voice soft and hesitant. "Mom and Dad are in trouble. Financial trouble. They need money to keep the house, to survive. I can't help them, not in the way they need." I looked at her, my twin, the one who had always been the golden child, the one they had chosen over me. And now they wanted me to save them. The absurdity of it all hit me like a punch to the gut. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. "Why would you think I would help you after everything you did to me?" My mother's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. "We were wrong," she whispered. "We were so wrong. We thought we were doing what was best for you, but we see now that we hurt you. We were scared, and we made a terrible mistake. Please, we need you." I felt a surge of anger, years of pain and rejection boiling over. "You threw me away," I shouted. "You chose Emma over me. You abandoned me because I wasn't good enough, and now you want my help. Why should I help you?" My father sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "We know we don't deserve your forgiveness," he said, "but we're desperate. We're old, and we don't have anyone else to turn to." I looked at Emma, who was watching me with those same eyes that had always been filled with pity. "And you?" I asked. "What do you think?" She hesitated, then looked down at her hands. "I always felt guilty," she admitted. "I knew they favored me, and I hated it. I tried to be there for you, but I know it wasn't enough. I can't change the past, but I want to help now." I stood there, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to walk out the door and never look back. They had hurt me in ways they could never understand. But another part of me, the part that still longed for their love and approval, wanted to help, wanted to forgive. In the end, I made a choice. "I'll help you," I said, my voice steady, "but not because I forgive you, and not because I owe you anything. I'm doing it for me, because I don't want to carry this anger anymore. But once this is over, I'm done. We're done." My parents nodded, their faces filled with a mix of relief and sorrow. Emma smiled weakly, but I couldn't bring myself to smile back. I helped them, as I said I would. I gave them the money they needed, helped them keep their house. But once it was done, I walked away. I left the town, left the memories behind, and started a new life, far away from the pain of the past. I never heard from them again, and I was okay with that. I had done my part, and now it was time to focus on myself, to heal the wounds they had left behind. It wasn't easy, but day by day, I grew stronger. I learned to love myself, to accept that I was enough, just as I was. And in the end, I realized that their rejection, as painful as it was, had made me who I am today. I am strong, resilient, and determined to never let anyone make me feel less than I am.